Hey, I'm Joel Wanasek. I'm a mixer and the co-founder of NailTheMix.com, the coolest place to learn how to mix rock and metal music on the entire planet. And today I'm going to break down an absolute freaking banger of a song by an absolute icon. That's Scott Stapp's Purpose for Pain. Can't wait to dive into this banger. This is mixed by Chris Baseford, who is one of my favorite rock mixers and just an absolutely wonderful person and phenomenally gifted mixer. So let's break this song down. This one crushes. All right, first things first, guitars are coming in ripping. Let's focus in on the guitar tone. So I like that the guitars are really bright. They're very mid-forward, very aggressive, very in your face. They're mixed very loud in terms of balance. You know, it's a rock song. It's got to come in and rock. You can't come in and rock with some weak-ass guitars. You know what I mean? So that's pretty sweet. All right, let's keep going.
I wait in the dark, the whisper.
Now pay attention to the ambient textural layers of guitar. You know, we've got some like little chuggy guitars in there. We've got some picked clean guitars. All of it is kind of in the background and it's built in to create like an ambient kind of atmosphere. Listen to those lush delays and reverbs on the guitars. And I love how Chris has already just built this massive soundscape. You know, one of Chris's hallmarks is the amazing drum ambience that he gets on his drums. We'll talk about that in a second. But right now, the way the guitars are complementing the keys and just the ambiences of the entire thing, it's just, I love it. It's just so well crafted. It sounds super anthemic, super iconic, and just massive. All right, let's hone in on some drums. Is it just me or does Baseford literally have the best snare drum ambience in like literally all of rock music? I mean, he really does. And he's got a little bit of a gating thing. If you saw his Nail the Mix where he did San Quentin by Nickelback, he talked about it. But Chris actually has recorded samples. He's told me this. He records samples in different acoustic spaces, you know, like arenas and distilleries and etc. And he uses those samples instead of reverbs to create really long tail ambiences and then comes in and then gates them down to craft them into his songs. And that's how he just gets this massive snare sound. And just listen to this. Let me pull back to the verse. Listen to the length of this snare. I mean, it just sounds so massive. Like, what an awesome drum sound. Okay, let's hone in a little bit more now. Pay attention to the kick. Kick is super tight. You know, it doesn't have a very deep sub to it. It's very tight and punchy. Now, the guitars we were talked about earlier, they don't have a lot of low end either. You know what I mean? It's a very bright forward, you know, like mid forward kind of mix. So the kick is tight. The kick is punchy. It's nice and clicky. There's not a lot of like super low sub going on. And I also really like how well the kick drum and the snare drum samples just interlock together and just fit each other tonally. They're like literally the perfect complement for each other. Like I could not picture another kick sound in this song to go with that snare drum. It's just like nailed it. Going in on the cymbals now. Now the cymbals are bright and tight. It definitely sounds like he's got a little bit of ambience added in on the cymbals, maybe like a little bit of reverb or something, obviously because the snare has this beautifully awesome long tail to it and it creates this just anthemic and iconic ambience to it. And like the cymbals, you know, you got to bring them up to match. If they were too dry and they weren't crisp enough, it definitely wouldn't work for this kind of mix. So the cymbals are kind of bright, you know, they've got a nice edge to them, but they're still really smooth and, you know, they have a great ambience. And in terms of balances, they're just sitting right on top of the snare. How awesome is Scott Stapp's voice? And we'll come back to that in a second, but I mean, of all the rock singers that have ever lived, Scott is just one of the most identifiable and one of the most iconic. He's just so good. It blows my mind. I just love listening to Scott sing. All right, we're focusing on bass now. Let's dial into the bass. And the bass is in there. It's not as forward on this mix as, you know, for example, like it would be on, like I say, a Nickelback mix or something else that Basford has done. It's kind of tucked in. It's kind of tight sounding. You know, there's not a really super subby low end. It's very punchy. It's very mid-rangey. There's not a lot of like distortion or grit on or anything that like makes it stand out. So he's kind of got it tucked in. Let's see if it grows a little bit as he goes into the pre and then into the chorus. Yeah, get a little more bass here. Okay. And I would say the kick is a little bit below the bass frequency wise. Okay, let's talk about the lead textural elements. Now I'm gonna roll back into this verse. There are a lot of things going on, a lot of keyboards, a lot of synths, it's a very, very dense production, a lot of lead guitars. And Chris has just really masterfully laid this stuff in. You know, it's like he's got all of his guitars. Everything is kind of bright, like I said, and it all works. It's a very bright mix, which gives it a lot of energy. It gives it a lot of like excitement to listen to. It cranks really great in the car. Like I said, I love this song. It's such a banger. But all of those ambient textures and stuff, he's definitely got them kind of like thinned out and brightened up a little bit. So they're very well carved. And you can hear every little detail that goes on in the mix, which I think is important in a mix where you have a ton of ambient elements. You can mix it where it kind of just blurs together, but you can also mix things where they're really clear and separated, but they just gel in a great way. And you can just really feel the ambient scapes. You know, if like you're sitting there listening there in headphones, just zoning out to music and like diving in, you know, you're going to hear all this stuff very, very clearly. You know, risers, little lead guitars, there's a lot of cool stuff. Yeah, just listen to all those guitars and those keys and stuff, open it up. All right, let's talk about Scott's vocals. And what I really like about this is while the whole mix is bright and has a great energy to it, the vocal has a really nice amount of low end to it, you know, especially when he goes down on those low notes, it's just got a lot of body and it doesn't really brighten up to rise with like the energy of the mix in terms of like the frequency spectrum until he opens up his voice and starts belting it out and just doing that signature stab thing. So there's a lot of like dynamic and a lot of frequency range in Scott's voice, and Scott is incredible. He can sing a lot of different styles of performance, and you know, it really, really showcases the nuance of that and the singing in this. So listen to how we go from like the lower vocal to the higher vocal and just how the frequencies change, you know, and the way that things are EQ'd. From the so many nights not going out like this. Those vocals are smooth as butter. I love how the double comes in here and just thickens it up and wettens it. I fought the devil and he won. There's gotta be more. Now, something awesome that Chris has achieved here is when the chorus pops, the vocals are really loud, you know, they're really up there, but the mix doesn't kind of like compress down or anything. You know, the vocals are really, really front and center, but the mix doesn't lose any size. Sometimes when a vocal gets super loud in comparison to everything else, what happens is like the mix, you know, triggers a compressor and the mix crunches down and stuff. And Chris has actually set this up and got this set up where, you know, he's just nailed the EQ curve so well on this that the vocals are super front and center, yet the mix grows and gets more powerful. And that doesn't always happen. I like the volume on the harmonies. You know, it's real rich. It's super wide. Now, I know for a fact that Scott only sings, despite what's in the video, on an SM57, aside from one record where Howard Benson made him sing on a C800. But Scott's mic of choice is a 57, so the way that Chris has brought this mic and actually EQ'd this to kind of sound like a small diaphragm condenser is pretty damn cool to me. Like, it's really, really bright and awesome. Just listen to it. Like, he really took all of the negative things out of an SM7B that, you know, have driven me nuts my entire life and just turned them into all positive. So bravo on that move. The vocals sound phenomenal. Okay, let's jam out this solo here. I said solo and I forgot we have a bridge before the solo. Okay, we got a little bit of lead guitar coming here with the wah pedal, which is cool, you know, kind of tucked under the voice. And again, he's matched the ambience on the lead guitar to fit right in with the rest of the ambiences. And I think this is important. You know, what can happen when you're mixing in the box is, you know, sometimes you want to use a different type of reverb or whatever for every single instrument. What happens is your mix can lack cohesion. And, you know, having watched Chris work and talked to Chris numerous times, you know, he's more of the type of person where he just picks a few good effects and uses them for everything. And what happens is it creates a really cohesive blend of everything, and everything just kind of works together. So this is a great example. Like, the guitar comes in, it's just seamless. Like, everything fits perfectly. What an absolute banger of a song. I love this song. I love this mix. You know, Stapp just sounds incredible as always and as expected. So I'm going to leave it right there. Let me know what you think of this in the comments below. And of course, click subscribe, like, and if you got any other songs you want me to break down that are rock, drop them below and I will be glad to talk about those mixes. If you like mixing content and stuff like that, I'm trying to drop real stuff all the time on my Instagram and my TikTok. That's at Joel Wanasek. Please check it out. And if you want to see Chris Baseford mix Nickelback, head over to nailedthemix.com. Go sign up and go get that session because it was super sick. Chris is incredible, and we all just learned a ton from him, and he blew our minds. It's really, really worth it. So thank you so much for watching, and happy mixing.